Hello, Jeff Zwerink again with Give and Take. This is the segment of the show where we examine intriguing and new scientific discoveries, analyze them and look at them and help them see how they support the truth of Christianity. Today I'm joined by Ken Samples and we're going to ask this question. Are humans the only self-aware creatures on the earth? Ken, it's good to have you here today.
Hi, Jeff.
So this is a question that I was prompted to ask as I was looking at some of the scientific literature, and the title of the article I was looking at was creating this self-aware cyber slug. And so I guess the question I'd throw at you first is, how important is self-awareness to humanity? What does the Bible have to say about that?
I think it's very important. I mean, if we think of human beings as being made in the image of God, if we think of them in some ways as being exceptional, I mean, to be reflective is to be driven by reason, to focus on truth and reality. It seems to me that that's only possible with a unique form of self-reflection, which I would say comes in being made from the dust of the ground, the breath of life, man becomes a living being.
So this does seem to be something that's uniquely human. And let's kind of flesh out, what does self-aware mean? Because you kind of alluded to a reflective process, capacity to choose this or that, kind of not driven just by the environment, if you will. What would you say are kind of the key attributes of self-awareness?
Well, I think having the capacity to think abstractly, to think philosophically, to think conceptually. I'm not just in a room dealing with entities, but to think conceptually about different ideas.
So that would have kind of this connotation of, I can think about not just things I've seen, but kind of extrapolate to things that I've not seen or things that might not even exist, if you will.
I can think about ideas that are not necessarily connected to physical entities. I mean, truth seems to convey that kind of idea. That I can think about the nature of reality, the way things are, the way things might be or could be. I think all of that is rooted in a self-aware, and I think truth. It just gives us the issue of what is ultimate truth, something more or different than what I see or experience with my five senses.
So can you draw a distinction to me? I mean, obviously we can sit here and decide to have this conversation, or we could get up and walk away. There's this aspect where that humans clearly have that self-awareness, but I mean, you've got pretty remarkable creatures, dogs that will stay with their masters and go get help and do things. How is that different than what we're talking about here?
It's a good question, and I definitely don't think believing in human exceptionalism or believing that humans are special, made in the image of God, I don't in any way want to put down the remarkable qualities that elements of the animal kingdom have. I mean, whales, dolphins, elephants are incredible creatures. It does seem to me, however, that animals have a capacity for reading and understanding the natural environment. And on some occasions, they even come close to awareness or behavior. We think about when animal species die and the way the others relate to them. But I still think there's a difference in kind. I mean, dogs, have this deep commitment to their owner and they seem to grieve and things like that. But I don't think even the remarkable animals think about thinking. I don't think they create mathematical systems. I don't think they think spiritually in terms of, well, what's going to happen to my pups if I die? So I still think the differences in humanity are not in the level of just one notch on the degree higher. I think they're different in kind and thus a different kind of species.
Okay, so this, I'll kind of just flesh out a little bit of what they found in this article, because again, this is what they're referring to as self-awareness, is that they had taken this particular kind of slug, and you can see it in the article, this self-aware cyber slug that I've written about, that they were able to map the brain circuitry neuron by neuron, and then kind of put in a a program that's kind of a learning program. So this slug now in cyberspace will be aware of how hungry it is. It will be aware of the environment in which it is. And it will even remember that this sort of animal, last time I bit it, it attacked back. And so there's this kind of awareness of its needs and environment and hunger. And it will make decisions kind of based on what the environment looks like around there. So this is what they're talking about as self-aware. Again, pretty primitive creature by all stretch. I mean, nobody
Sure.
disputes that. So if you heard someone come up and say, hey, here's this self-aware creature, why do you think humans are exceptional? How would you respond to that?
What strikes me, Jeff, is that what you've described to me seems more instinctual, cause and effect. This happened to me. I relate back this way. I think what we're talking about, self-aware, spiritual, reflective. Who am I? Why am I here? Why is this happening? It's not just that this creature is attacking me, but why do things like that happen in the world? So it seems like a self-aware person is asking those more fundamental questions, metaphysical questions, deeply moral questions. And so even with and again, I have no wish to say anything other than the animal kingdom is remarkable. God is to be praised for the beauty and organization and qualities that they have. But I don't think the animals ask questions about who am I, why am I here, what will happen to me when I die, nor do I think they use their mind to control the environment the way humans do.
Well, and that was one of the things that struck me as I was thinking about this cyber slug, if you will, is that, it has a sense of its environment and it can choose to eat or not eat here. But I don't get that. It seems to be very different than I can choose to not eat because I want to worship God today.
Yeah.
Or I could choose, even though I'm desperately hungry and need this for my survival, I can choose to give it to my kid. I don't see that level of awareness in there. And what's interesting as I was looking through the article is that they're saying that as we add more and more complexity, that we're going to replicate human consciousness. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's very optimistic. I'll wait and see, but I'm pessimistic. I think the idea of purpose, meaning, and significance is something human beings carry around in their mind, their heart, their will, that seems to be absent, or if it's there, it's not clear in the animal kingdom. Again, I'd relate that to a philosophical quality that seems to fit well with the Judeo-Christian idea that God made human beings special because they're made in the very image of God.
That is just a profound point, that we are the only creatures made in God's image, that we have the capacity to think abstractly, to reason. We actually think about making cyber slugs. There's no other creature on Earth that thinks about making other things like that. And as you investigate the literature and look at what the science has to say, it repeatedly affirms that we are unique and distinctive, and that affirms a profound biblical truth that God created us and us alone to be in fellowship with Him.